You're listening to The Broker's Terminal, a Mass Effect podcast. On this episode of The Broker's Terminal, Season 1, Episode 2, we discuss the future of Mass Effect and what comes next. Thank you for listening. This is The Broker's Terminal, a Mass Effect podcast. All right, here we are, Episode 2 of The Broker's Terminal. And we have a lot of really fun stuff to talk about this evening, or whatever time we're recording. We'll never tell our secrets. And so this is Rachel here with my friend Lexie.
Hello. Episode number 2. Here we are.
Here we are, moving right along. I think I heard in another life that we're just rolling and crunching through these episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get started, what we're gonna do is we have kind of two mini segments that we are gonna do. The first one is a news update, and the second one is kind of a fun little game that Lexi and I came up with. But we'll jump into the news update first because the news update kind of has to do with a little bit with what we're going to talk about tonight in terms of the future of Mass Effect. And then we'll split up the news versus just us spouting our feelings with the little game I mentioned. So the news update, I think last week, was it?
It was dated. Yeah, it was dated a week ago today.
Great. Oh, perfect. I did that on purpose, obviously. There was an announcement that Mass Effect Legendary Edition sold even better than EA expected. And there was kind of a lot of debate. I remember seeing, like, what does this mean? Were they expecting really low sales? Did they sell a lot and then sell even more than anticipated? But I think, sort of regardless, it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, how many they were expecting to sell, as long as their goal was breached, which it was, and B, the implications that has for future content in the Mass Effect universe.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just quickly scanning over this article, but
Sure.
yeah, they seem to think that they after Andromeda, they claim in this article that it did serious damage. I mean, I'm going to disagree, but
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
With BioWare Montreal and how that was kind of a different studio with Andromeda, and the mixed feelings about the state of the Mass Effect game series and what they were doing with it, and if people were still going to be interested in future installments, which of course we're going to get into later. But it's interesting to think, and I know they did that sort of percentage of choices graphic that they had on Twitter there about a week ago as well, which was kind of interesting. That they were able to collect that much data from that. And I think a big thing about it was you had a lot of. I would go out on a limb and say that most of the people who bought the Legendary Edition were previous Mass Effect veterans.
Sure.
There were certainly a lot of people who saw it and were like, "Hey, I'm going to buy this for the first time. All my friends are into it, or they just wanted something new to play, or this looks cool." And they bought it, fresh face. And I know I saw some Twitter mutuals of mine playing it for the first time, which was great to witness, seeing their thoughts. Because Mass Effect is a series I would absolutely love to play again for the first time, not knowing anything.
Yeah.
So I kind of relished secondhand in their joy
Absolutely.
and their sadness as well, going, "Oh, I know what's going to happen next," waiting for that follow-up tweet. So I think the big thing is the nostalgia and wanting to see the difference. I know for me it was an immediate, like, bam, EA, take my money, as soon as it was announced, because again, as we talked about in our previous episode, Mass Effect means a lot to the both of us, and for me, it's just something I wanted to see what they do with it. And also too, for me, the Legendary Edition also came with all the DLC.
Yes.
So to me, that's a really great deal. You're getting the 3 games plus all the downloadable content. And I think the list price in Canadian dollars was like 90, 85, 90, somewhere in there. So, with the price of new games today anyway, $20 to pay for all DLC really is, that's reasonable to me. So in terms of numbers, at least in my opinion, I think that's probably is all the veterans playing into that. And maybe, maybe they didn't expect that there would be new people. Maybe they didn't expect that many Mass Effect fans to still be around. But either way, I think it's a good thing going forward.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think we can, as we get further into this episode, we can fold this back into the conversation. But it's certainly heartwarming as a veteran. It's funny for me to, to consider myself a veteran of Mass Effect because I felt like at the time when I played it, I was like so late to the game. But now I really am a veteran because I played it like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So, it's really heartwarming to see the stats of first of all, the stats of what everybody, what everyone's choices were. Some of them were not so heartwarming, but we'll talk about that another time. And then, but it is heartwarming to see so many people who played the game previously come back to it. A, be excited about it for ourselves, but B, be excited about it for other people. And then C, like you mentioned, seeing new people. Certainly, a member of my stream community, our friends, I'll name him, our friend Tristan, who's a lovely lad. He played for the first time and, just absolutely loved it. So that was, it's very nice to see. Absolutely. So, yeah, we just kind of wanted to touch on that for just a little bit and make sure that we recognize that, especially, like I said, when we start to talk about sort of the future of Mass Effect, sort of how numbers like this, statistics like this, play into this series continuing. Yeah, so the next little thing that we wanted to do is I, don't really have an official name for it, but it's the Wheel of Names. And basically, what we're going to do, I'm not really going to time you, Lexi, but I'll cut you off if you're going long, or if I'm going long, I'll cut myself off. It depends on the character. There's going to be characters.
That's fair.
If it lands on Ashley, you have time. So basically, I know you guys, even people watching on YouTube, you can't see this, but you might. I think there's a sound, so you'll be able to hear the clicking here. But I'm using just wheelofnames.com, and basically you put in different things. You click to spin. And whatever character this spinner lands on, Lexi and I have about a minute, 2 minutes, if you will, to.
Let's do 2 minutes. I think that's fair. I think 2 minutes is
Sure.
Is
Okay.
a good one.
Great. So we have about 2 minutes to. I said defend, but you know what? If you really hate the character that it lands on, you can trash them. I don't care. Just sort of give your feelings on this character, and just so the listeners know. There are a lot of characters in Mass Effect. So I have only, on this wheel, selected characters that you can have in your party. That is 19 people. So if we're doing one of these an episode, it's going to take us 10 years to get through this wheel. So please don't harass us for not having, for example, somebody I'd love to give a defense to, Samantha Trainer. I don't have Samantha Trainer on this wheel. Maybe on a future wheel. So cool.
Maybe we'll have to do a future wheel for NPCs.
Yes, I think that's wonderful. Okay, all right. I'm gonna click. Lexi is gonna go first because she's gonna be way better than me. I can time you, or we can whatever.
No, I've got my phone out. Let's go.
Lexi's ready to rock. Okay, I'm gonna click to spin. I'm gonna say the name, and then you just press start. Here we go.
All right.
Who is the first character defensive? Oh, it was almost her. Oh, it landed on Ashley. I'm not kidding.
All right, so speed round, Ashley edition. So a lot of people give Ashley flack for the one remark she makes when you go to the Citadel for the first time, and she's like, "I can't tell the aliens from the animals," which puts off a lot of people. But they never give her a shot after her remark because they're all pissy about her one single remark, which is a lot of bullshit. And so, you have to look at her background real quick. If you actually talk to her and spend the time talking to her, you find out that her grandfather surrendered the Alliance garrison to the Turians at Shang-Chi. And so because of that, her whole family name got blacklisted despite being, third generation Alliance. And so, she's had to work twice as hard to get where she is. And so she's got a bit of a bias. I mean, we're only like 30 years out from First Contact War. It's still pretty new for humans and aliens to interact. And that's why Shepard and crew are kind of like, wow, look at the Citadel. This is our first time here. And, people don't give her a chance. And also, additionally, Shepard can call that one enkindler a big stupid jellyfish. So y'all won't get mad at Shepard, but you'll get mad at Ashley for calling them both animals. Hello? And it's a lot of bullshit. So then you get to Vermeer, people are like, man, I'm not giving her a chance. She's a space racist. But actually, if you give her a chance, she's the first one to say you should go comfort Liara after you brutally kill Benezia. And later on in the series, spoiler alert, but if Tali dies in Mass Effect 3, you actually find out from Ashley that she saw Tali like a little sister. So from 1 to 3, there's so much development. Obviously, we don't get to overhear all their conversations, but Ashley gets development. She matures. She moves up in the world and starts the experience working alongside aliens. And, she's like anyone. She's your average normal person who's getting used to that. Also, additionally, I'm kind of going back to 1. If you keep her after Vermeer and you go to that Terra Firma political party protest, she actually calls the guy. It's too bad or tells the guy straight up that too bad your party's just full of racists. Like, she literally acknowledges that, and she hates Cerberus. Hello? If she was actually anti-alien, do you not think she would be pro-Cerberus? Anyway, 2 minutes, 12 seconds.
Okay, that was pretty good. You know what's going to happen here? So, for those of you who listened to the last episode and are listening to this one, you may get an idea that Lexie really likes Ashley. I'm going to get, someone who I just haven't spent a lot of time with in the game, just based on my personal preferences. So, here we go. Ready? I'm going to do my spin. I have my timer ready. I'm going to try and stop it before my phone makes noise, because I'm going to do the opposite thing. I'm going to, do the...
I guess I could cut you off.
I could do the... Actually, I'll just do the stopwatch. That's probably safer.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's see who I get. It's going to be, Rex or Legion or someone that I, never talk to. Oh. Okay, cool. So I got Legion. Here we go. So Legion, I think is actually pretty interesting. I don't think I gave him a lot of, too much of a look, if you will, the first time 8 years ago when I played the game. However, this past time that I've played, I really took some time to talk to Legion and recognize sort of what his function is in the realm of my playthrough of Mass Effect. And based on how I played the game, they ended up being part of the reason that I chose to my ending for it to be Synthesis, because we spend all of this time meeting Legion. Well, some of us do. Not everybody does, I suppose, but we spend all of this time working with Legion to, sort of correct the Geth and the sort of calculated, if you will, because they are computers, mistakes that have sort of befallen their race, their species, and we work to reconcile the relationship that they have with the Quarians. So I really found that he ends up being a huge piece to Shepard's overall story, in terms of her his or her. Shepard is female in my canon, but her relationship with Tali, her relationship with the Quarians, her understanding of the Reapers, and her deeper understanding of the Geth. So I think that while Legion can kind of come off as an extreme side character, especially because you get to him so late in Mass Effect 2. I think that if you take time and you really get to know Legion and what they're all about, you'll see that he actually... I keep switching... Legion's a boy for me. That's not really right, but I'm saying it. You'll see that he ends up having just a huge role in the story when you maybe wouldn't otherwise think so. So that was 2 minutes and 52 milliseconds on Legion. I think I did pretty good. Legion's not usually a character that I have around. I'm glad that I spent more time with Legion in my last playthrough. So that was our little game. I don't know what to call it. I think.
I think it's our 2-minute defense.
2-minute defense. Perfect. Listen, Lexie and I are two former graduate students, so there's nothing.
Oh God.
There's nothing that gives us
your life defending things.
Right. There's nothing we like doing more than defending things we are passionate about, especially each other.
Of course, I pulled Ashley first. Though.
Of course you did. You know what's going to end up happening, and I'm going to be really upset about it, and I'll still be friends with you, but you're going to get Liara. I just want you to know.
Oh God,
And
I'm
I'm going
not
to
gonna
be
have the
sitting here.
thesis on Liara like you will.
Yeah, I'm going to be sitting here like, I planned for this, and you got Liara. Cool. It's fine. Okay, so I think that it is appropriate to move into the topic. That's what everyone wants. Let's be honest. Um, and again, this episode is really going to primarily focus on the future of Mass Effect, what we know comes next, what we think comes next, and maybe some um, gentle suggestions for what comes next, what should come next. Um, so, Lexi, I'm going to hand it over to you. And the first thing that I have written down, and you know me, I'll jump in or I'll add to it,
Of course.
is the teaser trailer. Uh,
I'm just rewatching in the background
Great.
now, just to refresh my memory, because it
Sure.
did come out in December, which
December.
feels like forever
It
ago.
does.
But yeah, it's is giving us that. It's living up to the name of a teaser trailer. It's not revealing too much, but
Sure.
getting us interested, getting us hype. I will point out it is interesting that they do show the Andromeda galaxy
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of through space, and we don't quite. Let me see here. Let me rewind a little bit.
Sure.
We do see what appears to be the sun and the remnants of galactic battle
Mm-hmm.
floating through space. And what I assume is perhaps that looks like a mass effect relay, um, and then into this other star system, and that sets our scene where we see a shuttle flying into a planet, and then you know our good old friend Liara Tassoni, kind of dressed up like a Destiny character. I'm
A
not
little
gonna
bit.
lie,
A little bit. She looks
a
like a
little bit.
hunter. Yeah,
She does.
she
She
does.
does. Pulling out the N7 bit of a helmet, brushing off the snow, and then the hood comes back, and we're like, "Oh, it's Liara," and she's got uh, what are they called? The wrinkles at the
Laugh
corners of
lines.
her eyes. Yeah, laugh
Oh,
lines
crow's
or
feet.
crow's feet.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Maybe she has aged a little. We don't know. It was like a 2-second glimpse, and that's all we see. Now we do see just before they go out of focus, the shuttle, like a new kind of craft.
Sure. Which
Um,
I'll interject for just a second is called a
mhm,
mud skipper.
mm,
When they released the trailer, they released some images online, and if you clicked on
right.
the image, you opened it in a new tab, it said like mud skipper. So that is what that new ship is called.
Yeah. And there seems to be three figures now. I know there's been a lot of debate about that. I'm going to go full screen on this.
Sure.
To me, it looks like a Krogan, a human, and a Solarian. Some people have said that it's a Turian. Um, but to me, it definitely looks like the Krogan hump over the back.
Right.
Because the head position to me looks a little too low, but that's just my opinion. So we'll find out. But, it's this hinted tease that is keeping us excited and, keeping us guessing. And I know there's going to be we're going to get into it here,
Yeah.
a lot of debate. But from what we've got, whether this is something to tie in together or it's just giving us hints that, they know BioWare fans love to obsess over, myself included, we'll find out.
Well, yeah.
But
Well,
for like a 1 minute, 43-second long trailer, it's giving us that kind of flicker of hope. Also, Liara looks great
she looks
in
great.
4K.
She looks stunning in 4K.
She looks stunning.
The question I have for you, Lexi, is when you
Mhm,
first saw this teaser,
mhm.
I realized that maybe some of the first thoughts you had were like, "Oh my goodness, this is happening. They're giving us something." But what was your first like? Here's what I think this is gonna be.
Oh, it's hard to think back that far. It's almost been a year. Um, I guess it would just be that excitement,
Sure.
that flicker of there's something. They're going to do something again. Like they're going to make another Mass Effect game.
Sure.
That's where my first thought was. I mean, obviously, your first watch is just taking it in as it is. You're not necessarily pausing for details. I like to watch them, all
Sure.
the way through at least first. So I think for me, it was just the excitement and that I'm pretty sure I probably audibly gasped when it was revealed to be Liara.
I cried.
Um,
I was crying. I mean, shocking. For those of you who know Lexi and I well, you'll know that I was crying. For those of you who are just learning about Lexi and I, um, I was crying, and it should not be surprising as you continue to get to know us.
No, not
uh,
surprised at all.
yeah. Now, what I will say is one thing that I'm not going to take time to do in this episode, and Lexi certainly can if she'd like, but I don't think that's really what our plan was. There are some great YouTube videos that exist where they break down the trailer frame by frame. Um, I don't usually do that on my own. I'm good at figuring out stories, but I'm not that good. So if you're somebody who wants to do that, I strongly recommend that you go check those videos out on YouTube. There are a ton of them. Some of them, just as kind of like a TLDR. There's one that kind of like connects some of the radio um, announcing, that's not the right word, but that's what I'm using, in the background, and here's why they're using that. Here's the significance to the story of Mass Effect. They're showing you where Andromeda is. You know, they're really going into those figures in the background and pointing out why they think it's this species, or this, that, whatever. So if that's what you're looking for, that's not really what this episode is going to be about. We're not going to pick the teaser trailer apart. We're really going to focus more on what do we think our theories are. Like I said before, just kind of a reminder of where did we leave off in each story. And the big question, I posted a poll on our Twitter page about what protagonist do we want to see, and why do Lexi and I not want to see Shepard? But we'll do that at the end because that's the hot topic.
To keep you listening.
If we're gonna, that's
Absolutely.
really the only reason, obviously. So there were two main theories that I think that I've heard since this trailer has come out, and the two include this. So the first one is that this is going to take place immediately after the event, maybe not immediately, but in the near future. And by near future, I mean not at the same time as Andromeda. Um, After the events of Mass Effect 3. I personally don't buy into that. I think that they want you to think that, but I think that's not what it's going to be. But there are people who think that that's what's going to happen. Liara absolutely does pull out like that part of I say mandible. I don't know if that's really what it's called, but that part of the helmet that looks like the signature, N7 helmet that we wear as Shepard.
The breather helmet.
Correct. Thank you. That's why we have Lexi around, because she uses the correct terms. The breather helmet, and so people are immediately, oh, Shepard, great, blah blah blah. So I happen to think that it's a teaser trailer, right? It's teasing us, it's getting us hyped up. Yes, we could absolutely see a cutscene of Liara finding Shepard's helmet, blah blah blah. But I personally lean the other direction. I think that this game is going to be a way to tie in the unfortunate failure, which I'm using with quotes, that was Andromeda, to the Mass Effect trilogy, just because people seemed to have such a problem letting the trilogy go and experiencing a new Mass Effect story in a new way. So I think that BioWare recognizes the potential of Andromeda, and also realizes if we're going to make Andromeda work, we need to kind of also give the people what they want and make it even more connected to the original trilogy. So, Lexi, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's such a shame, and I never did finish Andromeda. Truthfully, I can't remember if it was just school or life or whatever happened where I just stopped playing. But I think after I finished Legendary Edition, I think, which yes, I'm still working on Mass Effect 3. We're not talking about it. But as my friend, I have a friend of mine who's in a private personal server of mine, who just gave Andromeda a good run, and I'm going to pull up her comment because it kind of struck me. She said, Mass Effect Andromeda got a lot of flack, as she said, deservedly, but I just got done playing it, and it's a solid game. I had a blast. I mean, I played 100 hours and just beat it. That's a solid bit for a game. So, for the average person, like, it wasn't the trilogy, and I think we need to acknowledge that, but we can also acknowledge that it was a fun game to play.
Yeah.
And so it's sad to think that there won't be any DLC, or, like an Andromeda 2. But I do think it would be in their interest to connect it, to find a way to connect the two galaxies. Because here's the situation, right? They sent the arcs out to Andromeda in part because of the Reaper threat, right?
Correct.
Like, they wanted to ensure that if all hell happened and everybody got wiped out in the Milky Way, that they would ensure that people of their respective species would be able to make life for themselves in the Andromeda galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
So, it would be a shame for them not to have a continuation of that legacy, to know what happened with Ryder and everybody else that far away, to know that that they survived, and to keep that legacy going. And the thing with Liara, we all know Asari have a very long lifespan of 1,000 years or so, and whether there's anyone else. I don't think there is any, but I know Krogan could live for a while too, but Rex was already like mature. Like,
Sure. I mean,
I forget how old. I'm not sure how old he is,
he
but
was old. But
yeah,
certainly Grunt could be there.
true. So there is a possibility for that, and if the only concern I have is if they're going to link them, like, hopefully, I do not want there to be an ending they consider canon.
I agree.
I don't want that to happen, because then that just invalidates, uh, a section of your player base to say, "Oh, we're making synthesis the canon ending." Well, you have people who pick control, people who pick destroy, or people who pick
Didn't pick it
refusal.
all. Yeah.
I don't know how you stomach that ending, but good for you. Although that one ending, I don't know if they'd be able to, because technically everybody died if you pick that one. So,
Well, that's not true. The humans died.
Okay, that's
Because
fair.
you know what I mean. So like in the harvest that came before, the Protheans were eliminated, and in this harvest, this actually
Yeah.
took me this recent playthrough to realize this, which you guys might be giving me a side eye, but I didn't realize that the Reapers like were really out to end the humans, not everybody.
Yeah, I mean, they were taking, like, they are attacking the other species, but to like
They're
truly
eliminating.
eliminate
Yeah,
by means of genocide, it was to humanity, like they did to the
correct.
Protheans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of torn. Like, yes, I want them to link the two game, like the trilogy and Andromeda. I think they need to, in order to give acknowledgement to what Andromeda did and to continue the story, because the universe is so vast. And I think it would be stupid if they don't. But at the same time, I'm a little weary, because what are they going to do with the canon ending?
Well, here's my question. I literally kind of thought of this recently after I wrote up the notes for this podcast, but for this episode rather. But what if this game is Andromeda 2 and they're just fitting Liara and they're just fitting the Milky Way into the story?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So like I think that people need to take a step back, and I'm saying this a little harsh because I never like to, for lack of a better term, this is for adults. I don't like to shit on other people's fun. There are people who I've met in communities recently who want Shepard to come back, and I have to usually be the person who's like, I don't want Shepard to come back. I don't think they're going to come back. That would be literally a poor decision. In my opinion, that'd be poor storytelling. But what is stopping them from saying Mass Effect will return in Andromeda 2, where the story is you're playing as Ryder, and you figure out now how to start speaking with the Milky Way, and the person who answers is Liara, is the Shadow Broker, and and the reason I started thinking this was because some of the there's been some images aside from the teaser trailer that's been given out. There's one that sort of looks like the landscape for a planet. There's another one that looks, there's two that are landscapes for a planet. One is kind of like swampy looking. The other one looks like remnant tech. And there's one that looks like, and some people have some differing opinions. In my opinion, it looks like it's a very close-up shot of a ginormous, which they're already big, but a very large mass relay. Somebody else, it looks like said it was part of a Cerberus base because of the color scheme. But what if the plot of the next Mass Effect game, like we've said, is linking Andromeda to the Milky Way, via a giant Mass Effect relay that the Shadow Broker has uncovered? She'll still be alive.
Yeah.
Obviously because of the trailer. So whatever's happening in this next game, Liara is in it. But if it is that far in the future, what better way to bring it together to be like, boom, this is Andromeda 2, and we are making Andromeda 2 feel better for you, because y'all are whiners, by including some of the aspects of the Milky Way that we recognize you enjoy. Because if you do it that way, if you leave Shepard out of it, or if Shepard is a character just in terms of the essence, if you will, of Shepard, they don't have to pick a canon ending. They don't have to designate, what happened one way or the other, because it doesn't really matter at that point if it's 600 years in the future and Liara is just functioning as Shadow Broker with her ragtag team of Grunt and whoever else she wants. I'm committing to Grunt being there with her. The other thing I was going to say too, and did I forget it? And can I stutter enough here to remember what I was going to say? Yes, it's coming back to me slowly, except that it's not. Oh, yes, I do remember. So one reason I think that Lexie and I are both mentioning why there's conversation about an ending being chosen for us is because of a single shot of within the teaser trailer of Liara climbing up a Reaper, and the powers that be at BioWare have confirmed that she's in fact climbing up a Reaper, and people immediately have said, well, it's showing a destroyed Mass Effect relay, it's showing a destroyed Reaper. They must be committing to destroy. I don't think that's necessarily true. We killed a Reaper. We killed Reapers on Earth. We killed Reapers. I know the one on Tachanka got dragged into the ground, but we killed Keepers on Rannoch. There's nothing to say that there's not just a dead Reaper on a snowy planet somewhere.
Right, and also with the relay, we did destroy the Alpha relay.
We did.
So, and that happens no matter if you do a rival DLC or not.
Correct.
That still happens. That is a canonical event that happens regardless if Shepard has any hand in it. And so that kind of puts that theory to bed, because that could be the Alpha relay.
Right, and that's why I think a little bit of the more and more I talk about it, and the more and more cocky and conceited I grow, and the more right I think I am. I say to myself, it is a teaser trailer. In my opinion, the only thing that we know to be for certain as part of the next game is that Liara will be in it. And in fact, Liara was kind of in Andromeda. So if they are to make Andromeda 2 and have Liara as a character, it's not even like it's far-fetched. She knew about the Andromeda Initiative. She was in communication with Alec Ryder. And so there's nothing to say that is a wild, just sort of like fan, service idea. That's less fan service than Shepard being reincarnated again.
Yeah.
They already were reincarnated. That's not good storytelling. I'm sorry to you guys out there who want Shepard back. I want Shepard back. Shepard deserves blue babies, okay? Believe me. I want Shepard to have her blue babies, but she's done. She's done.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna give my opinion on this because and again, everybody plays their Shepard differently. Whether you play the defaults or you create a character in your head, y'all do you. I just think that after everything Shepard has been through, and I mean, maybe it's just my choice of having a Shepard that was a sole survivor, a colonist. So she lost her family and friends as a child. And then, got into the military, and then as a sole survivor, lost her entire unit. And then, lost her original crew, most of the crew from the SR1, and she herself died. For me in my head, it's like I'm gonna say woman too, because I'm a femshep canon anyway.
Sure.
She's gone through hell and back and is tired. Constantly saving the world and helping all of her crewmates with their personal problems to get their loyalty and just everything, in this galactic war. And we don't really get to see it because Shepard's our player character, and we have a few moments after Fessia where we see that Shepard's down and sad, or that they've been having nightmares here and there, but we never really get to talk about probably how much unaddressed PTSD that Shepard would have, among other things probably. But as a character, like if you think about it as a character and as a human being, they're tired. Like, you fought and saved the galaxy, you know. And again, this is we're going to come on to this is a controversial episode, but in my opinion, even in the destroy good ending, quote unquote, where you get to see that brief moment in the rubble with Shepard's brutalized chest plate, and you see them take a breath, and people assume that to mean, oh, they're alive, they're going to get out. First of all, we don't know where they are. Once the Crucible went off, did the Citadel explode? Where did they get launched into? Are they still sitting up in God knows where that control panel was set? Are people going to be able to find them in time? Because they'd obviously be brutally injured and crushed. And to me, it just doesn't seem realistic to think that they're going to get out of that. Now, I know everybody likes their happy ending, and you're more than welcome to headcanon that. I'm just thinking realistically. But at this point, and getting to my main point, as I'm definitely rambling, but Shepard's story is done. Shepard's story has been done. A trilogy is a good way to end it. You don't need a fourth installment bringing Shepard back, because what? Give me an example of any series that brings back main protagonist after a main trilogy is done and tell me it's good. Find one, because there isn't.
You can't. And the thing that comes to mind for me, and this, people are going to say this is like, oh, controversial, blah, blah, blah. It's not. I know how you Star Wars people are. Nobody really likes the epilogue. Nobody really likes those last 3 movies because it's just too much of the same. I remember saying to myself, spoiler alert for Star Wars, if they end up turning Kylo Ren into the good guy at the end, then they're just telling the same story again, and that's exactly what they did. They brought Luke back for no reason. And, it ended up not being necessary. So, again, I'll say this. Would I love... First of all, I didn't pick Destroy, so my Shepard is dead anyway. I picked literally the saddest ending you can... Well, no, I didn't choose No Decision. But of the ones where you can save the galaxy, at least the humans, I chose Synthesis. For those of you who have never chosen Synthesis, you disintegrate into the ether and are done. At least with Destroy, you have the option to take that last breath, and in your mind, headcanon, whatever it is you'd like, or at least in Control, you kind of are immortal as a
Reaper god.
which I will say, and we're going to have a full episode on just talking about each ending.
Yeah.
And the more that I look into Control and just kind of like recognize, again, with headcanons, just what could happen, I'm kind of intrigued. It's not really my preferred choice, but I would totally like be okay with that for the right kind of Shepard. Anyway, but so kind of bringing this back to what we were talking about in terms of our theories and our wishes for what comes next. If you, as BioWare, decide to make Destroy, which seems like the only option that if I was BioWare I would choose as a canon ending for everybody, do I think somebody like me who has never chosen Destroy, would I not play the next Mass Effect game? No, of course I would. I would say to myself, like, fine, I can deal with the fact that this ended up being the canon. But if you do that, you take away so much of what makes Mass Effect great. Lexie and I enjoy Mass Effect in such a different way. Yes, our first playthroughs we romance the same person, but that kind of is where the similarities to our experiences with Mass Effect ends. Like we went at it completely different. The choices we made, the friendships, if you will, that we made with different NPCs and different characters. And we chose different endings. And when you take that away from, especially as we talked about at the beginning, the veterans, not to take away from the new people, certainly by any means, but when people like Lexie and I, who have been so invested in this story for almost a decade, and you say, your ending choice doesn't matter now, it's a slap in the face. And so that is probably the biggest reason, excuse me, despite that it would be poor storytelling, despite the fact that Shepard really is not needed, especially if we think they're going to merge Andromeda and Milky Way. Shepard is not needed to do that. But most importantly, by bringing Shepard back, you are eliminating player choice in probably one of the greatest trilogies. And I'm talking movies, books, any form of media, probably one of the greatest trilogies of all time. And the thing that makes it stand out from other types of trilogies is that player choice is there. And if you
Yeah.
take that away, it takes part of the essence for Mass Effect away too.
Yep. I totally agree. And, and I mean, obviously, we're going to have a whole episode dedicated to the endings
Yes.
and, some of the negative feelings about choice and how the accumulation of your choices within the game came down to four choices that, some people would argue felt cheap, or that they added the extended cut. And I know we're going to have a guest who did play the game before they added the extended cut, and we'll get to hear their thoughts as well. Because I don't believe you said you got to play it either. I never
No.
played it before the
Mm-mm.
extended cut came out, so I have
Yeah.
no idea how the original game ended when they
Yeah.
first published it. So
Yeah, and I'm looking
yeah.
forward to having him on. He's a friend of Lexi and I. His name, our friend Truth, Truthmonger. We're hoping to have him on later to talk about that because he's one of the only people I know who have experienced it, and I think that that
Right.
would lend. I would be interested to hear his opinion on them telling us in the next game, like here's what the ending actually canonically is. And I've actually, just to add, to sort of like tie a bow on this part of the conversation, I have played a game where I had a choice of an ending, and then they made sort of a sequel to it, and the sequel required you to actually have a canon ending. And I remember thinking to myself, what was the point then? And for anybody who's wondering, that game is Far Cry 5. You do get a choice at the end for how you want the game to end. And then if you play Far Cry New Dawn, you have to have one of the endings as canon for you to, for the story to make sense. And I just remember thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, I chose the other ending. So that was kind of frustrating, and it wasn't as big of a deal as something like Mass Effect would be because it was just one game and whatever. But even in that small of a sample size, I was still very turned off by that. So I've experienced that, and it doesn't feel great. But yeah, so we absolutely talked about our opinion on Shepard coming back. We would prefer not. We talked about
Thanks.
Yeah, no thanks. That's what we wrote. We talked about linking Andromeda to the Milky Way. I kind of shared my opinion on that. Did you have anything extra about like how they would do that you wanted to add, or you
No,
don't have to?
I think we covered it pretty good. I mean, like I said, we've only got that tiny teaser trailer so far, and there definitely will be more to come.
Sure.
But I do think the Bioware writers do have a good group that have time and time again written characters that are incredibly memorable and plot lines that are, make you cry, things like that. That I think they all have the skills to the table. It just, how they put it all together, we'll find out.
Sure. Absolutely. So I think maybe what we should do before we end this conversation is, just in case people need a little bit of a rundown, we're talking about what comes next. Because I have, I shouldn't say this because I have only finished Andromeda once and I'm going to butcher explaining the ending. But maybe we should just kind of remind everybody just where the games ended, and that way people can start kind of thinking of their own theories.
Well, you should tell me too, because I never actually finished the game. So
Great.
go ahead.
Yeah, so here oh my gosh, I'm going to do my best to explain Andromeda. So basically what ends up happening is whether you're bro or cis writer, you learn that the Archon has found a way to get into your SAM implant through your twin, who is unconscious for about half the game, and then they're like in recovery because they were unconscious for a time. And so once you figure that out, like you have to kind of work to save your twin from the Archon, while also like going into the heart of Meridian and Jardan, I think that's how it's said, which is like the home world of the Remnant and the Angara, and then of course in turn It's not the homeworld of the Angara, but the Angara were created by the Remnant, if I'm remembering this correctly. And you have to go in there and destroy some of these like rogue Remnant, if you will, that the Archon is using to uh, um, like what's the word? I guess not impede. Infect, if you will, your twin. So you have to go into this like, main motherboard, if you will, of this place, and you have to kill this giant remnant. It's kind of an underwhelming fight. Like, I like Andromeda. I think it gets too much heat. We're going to have a whole episode on Andromeda, by the way, and we can talk about that in way more detail. It was a little underwhelming, but basically what happens is you do that, and the whole thing, it kind of reminds me a little bit of how a Mass Effect trilogy worked, where the portal, like, to the home world of the Remnant is kind of like through the Nexus somehow. I don't fully remember, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering this. Some like huge Andromeda fan is listening to this right now. Like, Rachel, you're lying. You've never played this game. I have played the game. It was just a while ago. But basically, what ends up happening is you end the threat with the Archon, but you haven't ended the threat of the Ket. So I may have not had, maybe I said Reapers before on accident. I meant to say Ket. But you end the threat of the Archon, but they do kind of indicate that the Ket are still cooking and trying to basically exalt every species that is now in the Andromeda galaxy. So, just to sort of add a little bit of a personal note there, that's why I get kind of frustrated that people were like so anti Andromeda, because it's not, and this is its own argument that maybe it shouldn't be this way, but it's not so unsimilar from the original trilogy. Like, you're still saving a galaxy, you're still forging connections with new species and with, new characters and your family. And there's a lot of loose ends in Andromeda that I think would be really great. What'd you say?
I said romances.
Romances, etc. I'm a Suvi romancer, shock, awe, surprise. And
Vetra.
Oh, Vetra, yeah. So that's kind of how it leaves off. You're with your crew. There's still this looming threat. And how that threat will be dealt with, hopefully, we'll be able to find out. Now, I'm going to let the expert, for those of you who, for some reason, need a refresher on how the trilogy ends, I'm going to let Lexie give that spiel.
Oh, okay. Well, I would hope that most folks at this point have finished their legendary playthroughs, even if you're new. I mean, I still haven't, but that's because I know what's coming. But essentially, after you stop the collector threat in Mass Effect 2, Shepard gets put under house arrest. Now, whether or not you do arrival doesn't seem to impact the fact that Shepard is put under house arrest for likely working with the terrorist organization Cerberus. So for 6 months, they spend in an apartment in Vancouver. And then, they get informed that there's something coming. And so Shepard gets pulled into war, and you have to basically unite the galaxy. And making a soldier be a diplomat for all these different species always is hilarious to me. But anyway, once you get everybody peaceful and happy and working together, you finish Cerberus off once and for all. And then you make your way to Earth to take the final fight to the Reapers. And so once you make that fight and push through all these Reaper forces, you find the beam. And that takes you to the Citadel, where the catalyst has been brought, which, you spent all these resources putting into. It's the ancient tool that the Protheans began a plan for in their cycle. But as you find out from Javik, they never had the time to finish it. And so now, with the finished Crucible, Shepard gets portaled up to the beam, along with good old Elusive Man, and of course, David Anderson. And so, you deal with the Elusive Man, and, you go on to go meet the child of your nightmares, the Star Child, the kid that you originally, I guess this ethereal form that took the form of the little kid that you watched die the day that you left Earth, and has been haunting Shepard in their dreams for this entire time. And you were given all these choices. I have to listen to what the Star Child has to say and pay attention this time around. But you're given the choices of destroy, synthesis or control, each detailing things that will happen based on those choices. So destroy indicates that the Reapers will be destroyed. All synthetic life form will be destroyed. This includes the Mass Effect relays, but you will save the galaxy, and that's what your goal was with the Alliance. Then there's control, which was what the Elusive Man was trying to do by trying to work with the Reaper technology to try and control them, but he ended up getting indoctrinated. But that gives you control over the Reapers themselves. You essentially become this immortal god, but at the cost of your life, in a way, your physical life. And then, of course, synthesis, which is what Saren had been preaching from the beginning, wherein we combine organics with synthetic life forms to create a harmony between them. And once again, as Rach said earlier, that you give yourself up as well. And then, of course, there's the fourth ending, which is very painful to watch. But that's where you just refuse. You say, "Screw you, Star Child," and you do nothing, and everybody dies. And so that's depending on those choices, that is where the galaxy stands.
Very, very well done. You definitely sound like you've played those games, unlike me, who has played Andromeda, but admittedly did not remember fully how the game ends. So for anybody listening, please don't judge me too harshly. I do need to play through Andromeda again. I think I made it about halfway.
Like we should both replay it at the same time, or like watch the other play.
Yeah, for sure. I'm about halfway through, so if you'd like for me to just be the one to do it, I'm happy to do that. So I think this has been a great episode. My hunch, just sort of depending on how this podcast goes, for how long we do it, I have a feeling this topic, this conversation will come up again. It might not be the full episode in the future, but certainly with a new Mass Effect on the horizon, this is going to come up. People are going to be excited about it. Guests that we have, may want to speak about it. And certainly as we get new information, we will be going over it and talking about it with you. So Lexie, my friend, thank you.
Anytime.
For another great episode of The Broker's Terminal. If you liked this podcast, please rate, like, and comment on your platform of choice. To show further support, you can follow us on Twitch, Twitter, and subscribe to our channels on YouTube. Everything discussed today will be archived on the Broker's Terminal. After all of the Galaxy secrets are at the Shadow Broker's fingertips.